Good afternoon. Today we are going to be reading through chapter 22 of Dracula by Bram Stoker. But we're not just going to be reading the words, we're going to be stopping and talking about interesting vocabulary words as we read, or interesting phrases. And we're doing this video live, so if you're watching this with me live and you're learning English, you're an advanced learner of English, then you can ask questions in the chat. You can feel free to say, what does this mean? What does that mean? I don't understand. Explain this. That's the whole point of doing this. Also, no, if you don't ask questions, I'll just stop sometimes and explain certain words that I think could be useful for you, or certain expressions that I think could be useful for you. Also, when we finish the chapter, we've been bringing people in to practice English on. We've been bringing people in from Discord to practice pronunciation and some of the interesting words that we learned. So, if you are interested in improving your accent or your pronunciation, then you should stay until the end, because we practice for about an hour or so. We keep the video going on YouTube, but we bring people in from Discord. And if you want to join, there's a link in the description to my Discord server, so you can practice with us if you like. Okay, well, let's get started with chapter 22. I've got to take something to drink first. Jonathan Harker's Journal. 3rd of October. As I must do something or go mad, I write this diary. It is now 6 o'clock, and we are to meet in the study in half an hour and take something to eat, for Dr. Van Helsing and Dr. Seward are agreed that if we do not eat, we cannot work our best. Our best will be, God knows, required today. I must keep writing every chance, for I dare not stop to think. All big and little must go down. Perhaps at the end, the little things may teach us most. The teaching, big or little, could not have landed Mina or me anywhere worse than we are today. However, we must trust and hope. Poor Mina told me just now, with the tears running down her dear cheeks, that it is in trouble and trial that our faith is tested. We must keep on trusting, and we must keep on trusting, and that God will aid us up to the end. The end. Oh my God, what end? To work, to work. When Dr. Van Helsing and Dr. Seward had come back from seeing poor Renfield, we went gravely into what was to be done. To go into something means to discuss it. That's a phrasal verb. Actually, I think I'll write that down. That might be something worth practicing later. Where did that go? We went gravely into what was to be done. So that means we talked. We had a serious conversation about what we need to do. First, Dr. Seward told us that when he and Dr. Van Helsing had gone down to the room below, they had found Renfield lying on the floor, all in a heap. We've seen that word heap before. That means like a pile. So he wasn't just laying on the floor flat. He was kind of maybe like that. in a pile. His face was all bruised and crushed in, and the bones of the neck were broken. Dr. Seward asked the attendant who was on duty in the passage if he had heard anything. He said that he had been sitting down. He confessed to half dozing. We've seen that word also, doze. That's usually when you're trying not to fall asleep, or you're not trying to fall asleep, but you fall asleep. You ever do that when you're driving in the middle of the night? It's dozing off. Dr. Seward asked the attendant who was on duty in the passage if he had heard anything, and he said that he had been sitting down, and he confessed to half dozing. When he heard loud voices in the room, and then Renfield had called out loudly several times, "God! God! God!" After that, there was a sound of falling. When he entered the room, he found him lying on the floor, face down, just as the doctors had seen him. Van Helsing asked if he had heard voices or a voice, and he said that he could not say, that at first it had seemed to him as if there were two. But as there was no one in the room, it could have been only one. He could swear to it, if required, that the word God was spoken by the patient. Dr. Seward said to us when we were alone that he did not wish to go into the matter. See, here we go with the phrasal verb to go into something. That means to have a detailed conversation about it. He did not wish to have a conversation about the matter. He did not wish to go into it. It's very common. The question of an inquest had to be considered, and it would never do to put forward the truth, as no one would believe it. As it was, he thought that on the attendant's evidence he could give a certificate of death by misadventure in falling from bed, in case the coroner should demand it. There would be a formal inquest, necessarily to the same result. When the question, Sirkan is here. Hello, Sirkan, how are you? Oh, well, Sirkan is asking about the word heap, or in a heap. And he's saying, is that common? It is common to talk about like a disorganized pile of something. Let's see what happens if I just type heap. Let's see what kind of pictures we get. What you see is like a disorganized pile. So it's common in the sense of just talking about something shaped like a mound. Here's a heap of garbage, a heap of dirt, a heap of rocks, a heap of laundry, dirty laundry. So it's pretty. I don't know why they have these chemical, like these atomic maps or atomic diagrams. I wonder what a heap is supposed to be in that case, but it seems to be what they use the most. It's not what I think of when I think of a heap. I think of something like this. Sirkan says, Dr. Van Helsing had gone down to the room below. They had found Renfield lying on the floor, all in a heap. Yes, so, they found him dead or almost dead. I don't remember now if he actually died. I think he did. I don't remember. We'll find out, I guess, in a minute. But they found him on the floor. And if you expect maybe a body on the floor to be like this, but that wasn't how they found him. They found him like this. So he wasn't exactly laying flat. That's all it means. Does that make sense? I mean, that's what I picture. Maybe I could be wrong about that, but I don't know why they would say that unless he had a strange position in his body. Sirkan says, as the body meaning completely limp. Well, limp just means that nothing is tense. So that could still be. I mean, he could be limp like this on the floor. Yeah, something like that. But limp just sort of means relaxed. Let's see. Dr. Seward said to us when we were alone that he did not wish to go into the matter. The question of an inquest had to be considered, and it would never do to put forward the truth, and no one would believe it, as no one would believe it. As it was, he thought that on the attendant's evidence he could give a certificate of death by misadventure in falling from bed, in case the coroner should demand it. There would be a formal inquest, necessarily to the same result. When the question began to be discussed as to what should be our next step, the very first thing that we decided. I think I just want to zoom out a little bit. Oh, that's better. Okay. When the question began to be discussed as to what should be our next step, the very first thing we decided was that Mina should be in full competence. That nothing of any sort, no matter how painful, should be kept from her. She herself agreed as to its wisdom, and it was pitiful to see her so brave and yet so sorrowful, and in such a depth of despair. There must be no concealment, she said. Alas, we have had too much already, and besides, there is nothing in all the world that can give me more pain than I've already endured. It's funny, we were talking about the word endure this morning. We practiced it. Endure means like tolerate something bad, tolerate something difficult, tolerate something painful. Suffer something. She uses suffer in the next line. I've already endured, then I've suffered. Whatever may happen, it must be of new hope and of new courage to me. Van Helsing was looking at her fixedly as she spoke, and said suddenly but quietly, "But dear Madam Mina, are you not afraid? Not for yourself, but for others from yourself, after what has happened?" Her face grew set in its lines, but her eyes shone with the devotion of a martyr as she answered, "Ah, no, for my mind is made up." "To what?" he asked gently, whilst we were all very still, for each in our own way we had a sort of vague idea what she meant. Her answer came with direct simplicity, as though she was simply stating a fact, because if I find myself, and I shall watch keenly for it, a sign of harm to any that I love, I shall die. "You would not kill yourself?" he asked hoarsely. "I would. If there were no friend who loved me, who would save me such a pain, and so desperate an effort," and she looked at him meaningly as she spoke. He was sitting down, but now he rose and came close to her and put his hand on her head as he said solemnly, "My child, there is such a one, if it were for your good. For myself, I could hold it in my account with God to find such a euthanasia for you." Euthanasia is a word that means like killing someone, I don't know exactly, I don't know, let me check the real meaning of it, but it's used to mean like killing someone out of mercy. So uh, this is a big issue in a lot of countries now. If somebody has a disease and they're suffering very much in a lot of pain, what should you do with them? Should you keep them alive and let them be in pain? Or should you kill them just to end their suffering? And so a lot of countries now are making laws to allow doctors to kill people to end suffering. But that's called euthanasia. Let's see what it means, though. Eu means well. This is a Greek word, and eu means well, and thanatos means death. So it means like an easy death, dying well, a good death, instead of suffering. For myself, I could hold it in my account with God to find such a euthanasia for you, even at this moment, if it were best, nay, were it safe. But, my child. For a moment he seemed choked. Choking, well, this is choking, but choking sometimes, like if you're about to cry, you do something like that. That's choking here. For a moment he choked, and a great sob rose in his throat. A sob is a cry, so then he kind of cried a little bit. He gulped it down. We've talked about that word too, gulping. That's the sound if you drink something very quickly. That's gulping. So he gulped down. Gulping down means drinking something very quickly. He gulped down his crying, so he didn't actually cry. He swallowed it. He gulped it down and went on. There are here some who would stand between you and death. You must not die. You must not die by any hand, but least of all your own. Until the other who has fouled your sweet life is true dead, you must not die. For if he is still with the quick undead, your death would make you even as he is. No, you must live. You must struggle and strive to live. Strive means to try very hard, to work very hard. So you must work very hard to live. You must try very hard to live. Though death would seem a boon unspeakable, you must fight death himself. Though he come to you in pain or in joy, by the day or by the night, in safety or in peril. Peril means danger. We've had that word before. Maybe I'll add that to my list today. No, you must live. You must struggle and strive to live. Though death would seem a boon unspeakable, you must fight death himself. Though he come to you in pain or in joy, by the day or the night, in safety or in peril, on your living soul I charge you that you do not die, nay, nor think of death till this great evil be past. The poor dear grew white as death, and shook and shivered. Shivering, did you ever feel so cold that you were shaking? That's shivering. She shook and shivered, as I've seen a quicksand shake and shiver at the incoming of the tide. We were all silent. We could do nothing. At length, she grew more calm, and turning to him said sweetly, but oh, so sorrowfully, as she held out her hand, I promise you, my dear friend, that if God will let me live, I shall strive to do so. So here we have the word strive again. Maybe that's a word we should add here. Strive means try very hard or work very hard. So I will try very hard to live. I will work very hard to live. I shall strive to live. I shall strive to do so. Till if it may be in his good time, this horror may have passed away from me. She was so good and brave that we all felt that our hearts were strengthened to work and endure for her. So endure, that means suffer something difficult, go through something difficult, tolerate something difficult. We would tolerate this difficult thing for her because she's so sweet. And we began to discuss what we were to do. I told her that she was to have all the papers in the safe, and all the papers or diaries and phonographs we might hereafter use, and was to keep the record as she had done before. And she was pleased with the prospect of anything to do so, if pleased could be used in connection with so grim an interest. As usual, Van Helsing had thought ahead of everyone else and was prepared with an exact ordering of our work. It is perhaps well, he said, that our meeting after our visit to Carfax we decided not to do anything with the earth boxes that lay there. Had we done so, the Count must have guessed our purpose, and would doubtless have taken measures in advance to frustrate such an effort with regard to the others. But now he does not know our intentions, nay, more in all probability he does not know that such a power exists to us as can sterilize his lairs. Sterilize means make something clean. So they have some knowledge to make these places where he hides clean, so he cannot go there. So that he cannot use them as of old. We are now so much further advanced in our knowledge as to their disposition that when we have examined the house in Piccadilly, we may track the very last of them. Today, then, is ours. And in it rests our hope. The sun that rose on our sorrow this morning guards us in its course until it sets tonight. Sorry, I think I have to make the light a little bit dimmer. It's hurting my eyes. Oh, okay. Hopefully that would be better. Today then is ours, and it rests our hope, and in it rests our hope. The sun that rose on our sorrow this morning guards us in its course until it sets tonight. Oh, Pachu is here. Hello, Pachu. How are you doing this morning? You're up early. The monster must retain whatever form he now has. He is confined within the limitations of his earthly envelope. He cannot melt into thin air, nor disappear through cracks or chinks or crannies. If he go through a doorway, he must open the door like a mortal. So we've talked about that word mortal before. That word mort, that has something to do with dying. So when you see that mort, most of the time when you see that, it means dying, some idea of dying. A mortal is somebody who has the ability to die. And so that usually you talk about that only when you're comparing people to God or something like that, because God is immortal. That means cannot die. So also this vampire, it's not clear. Dracula, is he dead? Is he alive? So he's immortal. Or he seems immortal. It seems like you cannot kill him. So when they compare themselves to him, they call themselves mortal because you can easily kill a person. So he's saying, we know how to. What did they say? He cannot melt into thin air nor disappear through cracks or chinks or cranny. They're going to do something. I'm not sure what. But they're going to fix it so that he cannot uh, become like a ghost or become like the wind and move from one place to another place under the door. They're saying now he will have to enter through a doorway like a mortal, like a regular person, like the kind of person who can die. And so we have this day to hunt out all his lairs and sterilize them. Sterilize means clean. So we shall. If we have not yet catch him and destroy him, drive him to bay in some place where the catching and the destroying shall be, in time, sure. Here I started up, for I could not contain myself. So we've had that word start before, doesn't mean begin. Here I started up. I jumped up with surprise. That's what start means here. Here I started up, for I could not contain myself at the thought that the minutes and seconds so preciously laden with Mina's life and happiness were flying from us. Since whilst we talked, action was impossible, but Van Helsing held up his hand warningly. "Nay, friend Jonathan," he said, "in this the quickest way home is the longest way, so your proverbs say. We shall all act, and act with desperate quick, when the time has come. But think! In all probable, the key of the situation is in the house in Piccadilly. The Count may have many houses, which he has bought. Of them he will have the deeds of purchase." A deed is like a certificate, an official certificate from the government. That means John Smith owns this house. So that's a very important piece of paper which says that you own property. The Count may have many houses which he has bought. Of them he will have deeds of purchase. So he will have the certificates proving that, look, I own this house. This belongs to me. Keys and other things. He will have paper that he write on. He will have his book of checks. There are many belongings that he must have somewhere. Why not in this place so central, so quiet, where he come and go by the front or the back at all hours, when in the very vast of the traffic there is none to notice? So he's saying that that house in Piccadilly, that's the most important place, because the other places are probably, people would notice him very easily, but in the crowded city with all of the activity, probably no one sees him or notices him. So that's his main house. We shall go there and search that house, and when we learn what it holds, then we do what our friend Arthur call, in his phrases of hunt, stop the earths. And so we run down our old fox. So, is it not? Then let us come at once, I cried. We're wasting the precious, precious time. The professor did not move, but simply said, "And how are we to get into the house in Piccadilly?" "Anyway," I cried, We shall break in if needed. To break in is to force entry into a place. Oh no, someone broke into my car. That means they forced the car open. Oh no, somebody broke into his house. That means they forced their way into the house. And your police, where will they be? And what will they say? I was staggered, but I knew that if he wished to delay, he had a good reason for it. So I said, as quietly as I could, Don't wait for more than need be. You know, I'm sure, what torture I'm in. Ah, my child, that I do. And indeed, there is no wish of me to add to your anguish. Anguish means suffering. Painful suffering. But just think what we can do until all the world be at movement. Then will come our time. I have thought and thought, and it seems to me that the simplest way is the best of all. Now we wish to get into the house, but we have no key. Is it not so? I nodded. Now suppose that you were in truth the owner of that house, and could not still get in. And think there was to you no conscience of that housebreaker. What would you do? I should get a respectable locksmith and set him to work to pick the lock for me. Wait a minute. Suppose that you were the owner of that house and could not still get in, and think there was to you no conscience of the housebreaker. So he's saying, imagine that was your house, and for some reason you couldn't enter the house. What would you do? And he says, well, I would get a locksmith. A locksmith is the person who makes keys, or who works with locks. So I would go to a locksmith and ask the locksmith to open the door somehow. And your police? They would interfere, would they not? Oh no, not if they knew the man was properly employed. Then he looked at me keenly as he spoke. All that is in doubt is the conscience of the employer, and the belief of your policeman as to whether or not the employer has a good conscience or a bad one. Your police must indeed be zealous men and clever. To be zealous means to be very enthusiastic about something. I just want to check that definition. Oh well, ChatGPT does not seem to be working tonight. Let me try Google. Oh wait, let's try again. Showing great energy or enthusiasm. Yeah, so that's right. Okay. All right. Your police must indeed be zealous men and clever, oh so clever in reading the heart, that they trouble themselves in such a matter. No, no, my friend Jonathan. You go take the lock off 100 empty houses in your London, or of any city in the world, and if you do it, and such things are rightly done, and the time such things are rightly done, no one will interfere. I've read of a gentleman who owns a so fine house in London, and he went for months of summer to Switzerland and lock up his house. Some burglar. A burglar is someone who will enter your house and take your things. That's a burglar. That's different from a robber, because a robber will will come in front of you and say, "Give me your money," and use a gun or a knife or threaten you with violence. But a burglar tries to be very quiet and goes into your house when nobody is around. A burglar doesn't want to see you. A robber doesn't care. Some burglar came and broke the window at back and got in. Then he went and made open the shutters in front and walk out in through the door before the very eyes of the police. Then he have an auction in that house and advertise it and put up a big notice. And when the day came, he sell off by a great auctioneer all the goods of that other man who owned them. Then he go to a builder and he sell him the house, make an arrangement that he pull it down and take away all within a certain time, and your police and other authorities help him all they can. And when that owner came back from his holiday in Switzerland, he found only an empty hole where his house had been. This was all done en règle. I think that's French, maybe by the rules, but let's see. I'm pretty sure that's what it means. And ChatGPT is pretty slow today for some reason. And in our work, we shall be en règle too. So there we have it again. We shall not go so early that the police, who have then little to think, we shall not go so early that the policemen, who have then little to think of, shall deem it strange. Deem means consider. That might be a good word to practice today. Deem. We keep seeing that, and we haven't practiced it. But we shall go after 10 o'clock, when there are many about, and such things would be done, were we indeed owners of the house. Van Helsing went on. When once within the house, we may find more clues. At any rate, some of us can remain there whilst the rest find the other places where there be more earth boxes, at Bermondsey and Mile End. Well, I think there's something wrong with ChatGPT tonight. It's not really working. Wait, I'm just going to restart it. Not because I care about en règle, but we're going to need it later, so I hope it's working. Wait, let's try again. Let's see if it works now. Okay. Lord Godalming stood up. I can be of some use here, he said. I shall wire to my people to have horses and carriages where they will be most convenient. Look here, old fellow, said Morris. It is a capital idea to have all ready in case we want to go horsebacking. What? Look here, old fellow, said Morris. It is a capital idea to have all ready in case we want to go horsebacking, but don't you think that one of your snappy carriages, with its heraldic adornments, in a byway of Walworth or Mile End, would attract too much attention for our purpose? Snappy means very attractive looking, something very nice looking. So one of your snappy carriages. Let's see, what point was he making? Don't you think that one of your snappy carriages with its heraldic adornments in a byway of Walworth or Mile End would attract too much attention? So Lord Godalming, that's a title, Lord, and so probably his carriage has some kind of family representation on it, like a we call it a crest, but it's sort of a symbol of a family. Maybe I'll show you a picture of that. So because he's an important person, he's a lord. Then there's a special picture associated with his family, and so everything that he has probably will have that. So these are some examples of a family crest. So if you're an important person, then you have a picture of your a picture representing your family. Those are some examples. So he's saying, look, you have this snappy carriage. That means very attractive carriage that people will look at and say, oh, that looks very nice. And it has heraldic emblems on it. So it has it has something that shows, oh, this belongs to Lord Godalming. You know, like the pictures I just showed you. So he says, don't you think that would be a bad idea to take the carriage to this house? We're going in there to break in. It seems to me that we ought to take cabs when we go south or east, and even leave them somewhere north near the neighborhood we're going to. Friend Quincy is right, said the professor. His head is what you called in plain with the horizon. It was a difficult thing that we go to do, and we do not want no peoples to watch us, if so it may. Mina took a growing interest in everything, and I was rejoiced to see that the exigency of affairs was helping her to forget, for a time, the terrible experience of the night. She was very, very pale, almost ghastly, and so thin that her lips were drawn away, showing her teeth in a somewhat of prominence. I did not mention this last, lest it should give her needless pain. So remember that word lest. That's a signal that you're going to name something that you don't want to happen, something you're afraid is going to happen. So he said, I didn't talk about the way that she looked, lest it make her feel bad. I didn't mention it because I was afraid it would make her feel bad. So that word lest is a signal. But it made my blood run cold. When you say that, make my blood run cold, that's an expression that means it makes me feel scared. It makes me feel nervous and scared. But it made my blood run cold in my veins to think of what occurred to poor Lucy when the Count had sucked her blood, and yet there was no sign of the teeth growing sharper, but the time as yet was short, and there was time for fear. When we came to the discussion of the sequence of our efforts and of the disposition of our forces, there were new sources of doubt. It was finally agreed that before starting off for Piccadilly, we should destroy the Count's lair close at hand, in case he should find it out too soon, and should thus still be ahead of him in our work of destruction, in his presence, in his purely material shape, and at his weakest, might give us some new clue. As to the disposal of forces, it was suggested by the professor that after our visit to Carfax, we should all enter the house in Piccadilly, that the two doctors and I should remain here, whilst Lord Godalming and Quincy found the lairs at Walworth and Mile End and destroyed them. It was possible, if not likely, the professor urged, that the Count might appear in Piccadilly during the day, and that if so, we might be able to cope with him then and there. At any rate, we might be able to follow him in force. To this plan I strenuously objected, and so far as my going was concerned, for I said that I intended to stay and protect Mina. I thought that my mind was made up on the subject, but Mina would not listen to my objection. She said that there might be some law matter in which I could be useful, that amongst the Count's papers might be some clue which I could understand out of my experience in Transylvania, and that, as it was, all the strength that we could muster was required to cope with the Count's extraordinary power. I had to give in. To give in means to surrender, to say, okay, you're right. For Mina's resolution was fixed. She said that it was the last hope for her that we should all work together. As for me, she said, I have no fear. Things have been as bad as they can be, and whatever may happen must have in it some element of hope or comfort. Go, my husband. God can, if he wishes it, guard me as well alone as with anyone present. So I started up, crying out, Then in God's name let us come at once, for we are losing time. The Count may come to Piccadilly earlier than we think. Not so, said Van Helsing, holding up his hand. But why? I asked. Do you forget, he said, actually with a smile, that last night he banqueted heavily and will sleep late. A banquet is a very big dinner. So let's see. This is what I pictured too. So when I look for banquet, when I look for pictures of banquet, I get a big table full of food, lots of people eating. See, this is a good example. Here's a banquet. Yeah, that word bank, that just means like a long, like something very long, like a long table or a long chair or something. So the idea of a banquet is it's a very long table full of food. So to banquet, he banqueted on blood. He's using banquet as a verb, which isn't very normal. It's not a normal thing to do. But he banqueted on blood. That means he had a lot of blood. Do you forget, he said, with actually a smile, the last night he banqueted heavily and will sleep late. Did I forget? Shall I ever? Can I ever? Can any of us ever forget that terrible scene? Serkan says that refers to the blood of Mina. That's right. So he took a lot of blood from her. That was his banquet. Mina struggled hard to keep her brave countenance, but the pain overmastered her, and she put her hands before her face and shuddered whilst she moaned, moaning as ah. Van Helsing had not intended to recall her frightful experience. He had simply lost sight of her and her part in the affair in his intellectual effort. When it struck him what he said, he was horrified at his thoughtlessness and tried to comfort her. Oh, Madam Mina, he said, dear, dear Madam Mina, alas, that I of all who so reverence you should... Reverence means respect. Should have said anything so forgetful. These stupid old lips of mine, and this stupid old head do not deserve so. But you will forget it, will you not? He bent low beside her as he spoke. She took his hand, and looking through her tears, said hoarsely, "Hoarsely, that's like this. No, I shall not forget, for it is well that I remember, and with it I have so much in memory of you that is sweet, that I take it altogether now. You must all be going soon. Breakfast is ready, and we must all eat, that we may be strong." Sirkan says Van Helsing is so funny, cunningly. Well, there's. I have the impression that he's goofy. Do you know that word goofy? That kind of means like ridiculous and funny. It's kind of a combination of ridiculous and funny. I think that in the same way here, let me see. Let me find a picture. Einstein. Of course, Einstein, right? Because he's he's a pretty famous guy, isn't he? So I mean, he's smart. He's famous for being smart, but he's also goofy. So it's kind of like a funny but ridiculous at the same time. Yes, there is a cartoon character named Goofy. I think is that Disney? And his name is Goofy because that means like funny but also stupid or ridiculous at the same time. So in my head, I imagine that Professor Van Helsing is Goofy. Wow, ChatGPT is really broken today. It's not working. Well, I'll try their website. I hope it works when we need it. Breakfast was a strange meal to us all. We tried to be cheerful and encourage each other, and Mina was the brightest and most cheerful of us. And when it was over, Van Helsing stood up and said, Sirkan says the issue here. Oh, so you have the same issue? It's not working for you? Oh, maybe it's just not working today. I'll have to make my own examples. That would be horrible. I've become lazy. I don't make my own examples anymore. Van Helsing stood up and said, "Now, my dear friends, we go forth to our terrible enterprise. Are we all armed, as we were on that night when first we visited our enemy's lair, armed against ghostly as well as carnal attack?" So ghostly, you know what a ghost is, like the spirit, something that you can't touch. And I think we've talked about this word carnal in some way before. Carne, that's a Latin word, that means meat. If something is carnal, that means it's physical. It's in the flesh. It's something that you can touch. It usually has something to do with touching. So you have the what did he say? Armed against ghosts. So they have things to battle ghosts, but they also have things to battle the flesh, the meat, the carnal thing as well. We all assured him, "Then it is well. Now, Madam Mina, you are in any case quite safe here until sunset, and before then we shall return, if we shall return. But before we go, let me see you armed against personal attack. I have myself, since you came down, prepared your chamber by placing of things of which we know, so that he may not enter. Now, let me guard yourself. On your forehead I touch this piece of sacred wafer, in the name of the Father and the Son, and..." There was a fearful scream which almost froze our hearts to hear as he had placed the wafer on Mina's head. It had seared it. Searing, let me show you what searing is. Searing is when you're cooking and you make these. I know that in Turkey, right? They like to grill meat in Turkey, don't they? And but I don't know if in Turkey this is desirable. But when you're cooking meat, at least in the U.S., people like to have these marks, the grill marks, on it, and that's searing. That's what searing is. Searing is like the black marks of cooking. So when he put the wafer in the, I'll just show you in case you probably, because maybe you don't know what this is. Wait, let's see. In the Catholic Church, when they do the service on Sunday, at some point, most people will go up to the front, and then the priest will take one of these and put it in your mouth, and that's supposed to be a very special thing. So that's a wafer. So Sirkan, you like searing? You like seared meat? You like the sear marks on your meat? So this is a very special thing that happens during the church service in a Catholic church, and the Professor Van Helsing was giving Mina one of these. He was blessing her, so he was saying, "In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy," and then he put the wafer on her forehead, and it seared her forehead. It burned her forehead. It made a black mark. There was a fearful scream which almost froze our hearts to hear as he placed the wafer on Mina's forehead. It seared it, had burned into the flesh as though it had been a piece of white-hot metal. My poor darling's brain had told her the significance of the fact as quickly as her nerves received the pain of it, and the two so overwhelmed her that her overwrought nature had its voice in that dreadful scream. But the words to her thought came quickly. The echo of the scream had not ceased to ring on the air when there came the reaction, and she sank on her knees on the floor in agony of abasement, pulling her beautiful hair over her face as a leper of his old mantle. She wailed out, "Unclean, unclean, even the Almighty shuns my polluted flesh." Shunning means like ignoring, refusing to talk to, rejecting. So she's saying, God, even God is rejecting me because I'm so unclean now. I must bear this mark of shame upon my head until the judgment day. They all paused. I had thrown myself beside her in agony of helpless grief, and putting my arms around her, held her tight. For a few minutes, our sorrowful hearts beat together, whilst the friends around us turned away their eyes that ran tears silently. Then Van Helsing turned and said gravely, so gravely that I could not help feeling that he was in some way inspired and was stating things outside himself. It may be that you have to bear that mark till God himself see fit, as he most surely shall on the judgment day, to redress all the wrongs of the earth and of his children that he has placed thereon. And oh, Madam Mina, my dear, may we who love you be there to see when that red scar the sign of God's knowledge of what has been, shall pass away. Sirkon says sealing the meat could be used instead of searing. I think when they say I think searing does that. I think it seals the meat so that all the juice will stay inside. But I think it would just be more normal to say searing the meat. And you would only say sealing if maybe you were training someone to cook. And you said, okay, well, why do we have to sear it? Well, to seal it. But the normal word would be searing. For so surely as we live, that scar shall pass away when God sees right to lift that burden that is hard upon us. Till then we bear our cross, as his Son did, in obedience to his will. It may be that we are chosen instruments of his good pleasure, and that we ascend to his bidding, as that other through stripes and shame, through tears and blood, through doubts and fear, and all that makes the difference between God and man. There was hope in his words and comfort, and they made for resignation. Mina and I both felt so, and simultaneously we each took one of the old man's hands and bent over and kissed it. Then without a word we all knelt down together and holding hands swore to be true to each other. We men pledged ourselves to raise the veil of sorrow from the head of her whom each in his own way we loved. And we prayed for help and guidance in the terrible task which lay before us. It was then time to start. So I said farewell to Mina, a parting which neither of us shall forget to our dying day. And we set out. To one thing I have made up my mind. If we find out that Mina must be a vampire in the end, then we shall not go into that unknown and terrible land alone. I suppose it is thus that in old times one vampire meant many, just as their hideous bodies, hideous means horrible, disgusting, just as their hideous bodies could only rest in sacred earth. So the holiest love was the recruiting sergeant for their ghastly ranks. We entered Carfax without trouble and found all things the same as on the first occasion. It was hard to believe that amongst so prosaic surroundings of neglect and dust and decay, there was any ground for such fear as already we knew, had not our minds been made up, and had there not been terrible memories to spur us on. We could hardly have proceeded with our task. We found no papers or any sign of use in the house, and in the old chapel the great boxes looked just as we had seen them last. Dr. Van Helsing said to us solemnly as we stood before him, so sacred of holy memories that he has brought from the far distant land for such felt use. He has chosen this earth Pachi is asking about the word spur. Well, this is really a phrasal verb, and this is spur on. Spur on. And let's see if ChatGPT will rescue me. Or is it still broken? No, I think it's still not working. Okay. Spur on. Not a terribly common phrasal verb, but it means to encourage, just like I said, like to encourage. So what were they talking about here? Uh, had not our minds been made up, so had we not made that decision to do this, and had there not been terrible memories to spur us on, so the horrible memories that they had pushed them into being braver, is sort of what it means. Dr. Van Helsing said to us solemnly as we stood before him, "And now, my friends, we have a duty here to do. We must sterilize this earth, so sacred of holy memories, that he has brought from a far distant land for such fell use. He has chosen this earth because it has been holy. Thus we defeat him with his own weapon, for we make it more holy still. It was sanctified to such use of man, and now we sanctify it to God." As he spoke, he took from his bag a screwdriver and a wrench, and very soon the top of one of the cases was thrown open. The earth smelled musty and close. Musty, let's see, what kind of pictures? Oh no, it's a name of something, so you don't get anything except... Oh, okay, here's a good picture. I don't know if you know what mold is, but if you've been in a place like this, you know, where there's a lot of humidity, a lot of water, and the air doesn't move very much, it creates, you can see the black and the green, that has a smell. That's mold. So the smell of mold is musty. Maybe you think about, like, let's see, musty book. Think about the... I like the smell. I like the smell of old books. But maybe some people don't. So, but this would probably be a musty smell. So imagine they're in this small room and they open this box which is just filled with dirt. That would have that kind of earthy, musty smell. The earth smelled musty and close. But we did not somehow seem to mind, for our attention was concentrated on the professor. Taking from his box a piece of sacred wafer, he laid it reverently on the earth. So he put it very respectfully, reverently means respectfully, on the earth. And then, shutting down the lid again, began to screw it home, we aiding him as he worked. One by one, we treated in the same way each of the great boxes and left them as we had found them, to all appearance. But in each was a portion of the host. When we closed the door behind us, the professor said solemnly, "So much is already done. It may be that with all the others we can be so successful. Then the sunset of this evening may shine of Madam Mina's forehead all white as ivory, with no stain." Sirkan says, what is the sacred wafer? Still bread? Let me show you a picture of that again. Yes, it's still done. They still use it. It's still the same. I mean, in the book they're calling it sacred wafer, but when I was growing up, I think we just called it holy bread. So it's just this. And I think it's just Catholics that do that. I don't think that, I don't know if anybody else does that. If ChatGPT were working, I would ask it. Because I would like to know. Uh, you're asking if I've had them? If you say, do you eat them? Are you asking, I'm not sure if you're asking, uh, are you supposed to eat them? Because if you say, do you eat them in the present, that means, uh, like, is that normal to eat it? Are you supposed to eat it? But or are you asking me if, in my experience, I have eaten them? If you're asking me if I have, yes, I have. Uh, if you're asking, are you supposed to? Yes, you are. They don't taste like anything. Yeah, they. Are you supposed to eat them? Yes, you're supposed to eat them. I don't know if you know what styrofoam is. Wait, styrofoam. It feels. It feels like this, and it tastes like that too. It doesn't have any taste. One by one, we treated the same way each of the great boxes and left them as we had found them to all appearance. But in each was a portion of the host. So the host, that's the bread again. That's the wafer. That's another way of saying the wafer. So in each of the boxes, they put the host, the wafer. When we closed the door behind us, the professor said solemnly, "So much is already done. It may be that with all the others we can be so successful. Then the sunset of this evening may shine of Madam Mina's forehead all white as ivory, with no stain." As we passed across the lawn on our way to the station to catch our train, we could see the front of the asylum. I looked eagerly, and in the window of my own room saw Mina. I waved my hand to her and nodded to tell her that our work there was successfully accomplished. She nodded in reply to show that she understood. The last I saw, she was waving her hand in farewell. It was with a heavy heart that we sought the station and just caught the train, which was steaming in as we reached the platform. I had written in this train, Piccadilly, 12:30 o'clock. Just before we reached Fenchurch Street, Lord Godalming said to me, Quincy and I will find a locksmith. You had better not come with us in case there should be any difficulty, for under the circumstances it wouldn't seem so bad for us to break into an empty house, but you are a solicitor, and the Incorporated Law Society might tell you that you should have known better. So because he's a lawyer, they're saying, don't come with us when we enter this house, because maybe we could, we won't have too much trouble, but if they discover you're a lawyer, you might get in trouble, because of course you know you shouldn't do that. I demurred as to my not sharing any danger, even of odium, but he went on. Besides, it will attract less attention if there are not too many of us. My title will make it all right with the locksmith and with any policeman that may come along. You had better go with Jack and the professor and stay in the Green Park. To Pachu's asking about the word demure. I think it means to make yourself small. Let's check. Wait, let me check the spelling. I think I've demurred. Maybe I'm thinking of a different word. Raise doubts, objections, or show reluctance. Oh, it's the opposite of what I thought. Well, I'm glad you asked. So, I demurred. That means I objected. I said, oh no. Oh, I was thinking of a different word. So, but this is not a common word. This is not a word that you would use in regular speech. But I demurred. That means I objected. I said, no, 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 I want to go. Now this sentence makes sense because when you see this word odi, odium, odio, that means hate, something hateful, something horrible. So I objected to not sharing in the danger, even to this horrible, hateful thing, this awful thing. I demurred as to my not sharing in the danger, even of odium. But he went on. Well, the Pacha says odium hate. Well, hate something hateful, something that you hate, something bad, something unpleasant. Since we're checking, I better just make sure about that. Widespread hatred or disgust, something disgusting, something horrible. Yeah. But again, it's not a word that you would use in regular conversation. You can't use that word and expect people to understand it. Very few people will know what you're talking about. You had better go with Jack and the professor and stay in the Green Park, somewhere inside of the house. And when you see the door opened and the smith has gone away, do you all come across? We shall be on the lookout for you and shall let you in. The advice is good, said Van Helsing. So we said no more. Godalming and Morris hurried off in a cab, we following in another, and at the corner of Arlington Street, our contingent got out and strolled into the Green Park. My heart beat as I saw the house on which so much of our hope was centered, looming up grim and silent in its deserted condition amongst its more lively and spruce-looking neighbors. We sat down on a bench within a good view and began to smoke cigars so as to attract as little attention as possible. The minutes seemed to pass with leaden feet as we waited for the coming of the others. At length, we saw a four-wheeler drive up. Out of it, in a leisurely fashion, got Lord Godalming and Morris, and down from the box descended a thick-set working man with his rush-woven basket of tools. Morris paid the cabman, who touched his hat and drove away. Together, the two ascended to the steps, and Lord Godalming pointed out what he wanted done. The workman took off his coat leisurely and hung it on the spikes of the rail, saying something to a policeman who just then sauntered along. The policeman nodded in acquiescence, and the man kneeling down placed his bag beside him. After searching through it, he took out a selection of tools, which he proceeded to lay beside him in orderly fashion. Then he stood up, looked in the keyhole, blew into it, and turning to his employers, made some remark. Lord Godalming smiled, and the man lifting a good-sized bunch of keys, selecting one of them, he began to probe the lock. We've talked about the word probe before. That means taking something and sticking it into something else. And usually even maybe moving it around a bit like that, probing. So the locksmith has some keys, different sets of keys, and he took one that maybe was very close to this one, and he got it in there. Now he's moving it around, trying to get the lock to open. After fumbling about for a bit, tried a second and then a third, and all at once the door opened under a slight push from him. He and the two others entered the hall. We sat still. My own cigar burnt furiously, but Van Helsing's went cold altogether. We waited patiently as we saw the workman come out and bring his bag. Then he held the door partly open, steadying it with his knees whilst he fitted a key to the lock. This he finally handed to Lord Godalming, who took out his purse and gave him something. The man touched his hat. When they say touch his hat, that's like thank you. The man touched his hat. That's how you say thank you. Took his bag, put on his coat, and departed. Not a soul took the slightest notice of the whole transaction. When the man had fairly gone, we three crossed the street and knocked at the door. It was immediately opened by Quincey Morris, beside whom stood Lord Godalming, lighting a cigar. This place smells so vilely. Vile means disgusting, horrible. I guess we have a lot of words for disgusting and horrible. Like the old chapel at Carfax, and with our previous experience, it was plain to us that the Count had been using this place pretty freely. We moved to explore the house, all keeping together in case of attack, for we knew we had a strong and wily enemy to deal with, and as yet we did not know whether the Count might be in the house. In the dining room, which lay at the back of the hall, we found 8 boxes of earth. 8 boxes only out of the 9 which we sought. So they found there's one more box they need to find. Our work was not over and would never be until we have found the missing box. First, we opened the shutters of the window which looked across a narrow stone flagged yard at the blank face of a stable, pointed to look like the front of a miniature house. A stable is where you keep horses. That's where horses live. So when they look at the back of the house, there's a little garden, and then there's a stable, the place where they keep the horses. But it was designed to look as if it were a house. There were no windows in it, so we were not afraid of being overlooked. We did not lose any time in examining the chests. With the tools which we had brought with us, we opened them, one by one, and treated them as we had treated those others in the old chapel. It was evident to us that the Count was not at present in the house, and we proceeded to search for any of his effects. Here the word effects means things, any of his things, any of his belongings. After a cursory glance at the rest of the rooms, from basement to attic, we came to the conclusion that the dining room contained any effects which might belong to the Count, and so we proceeded to minutely examine them. Minute means very small, very little. If you examine something minutely, you examine it very closely. You look at every detail. They lay in a sort of orderly disorder on the great dining room table. There were title deeds of the Piccadilly house in a great bundle, deeds of the purchase of the houses at Mile End and Bermondsey, note paper, envelopes, and pens and ink. All were covered up in thin wrapping paper to keep them from dust. There were also a clothes brush, a brush and comb, and a jug and basin, the latter containing dirty water which was reddened, as if with blood. And last of all was a little heap of keys. So here we have there's that word heap again, a little pile of keys. of all sorts and sizes, probably those belonging to the other houses. When we had examined this last find, Lord Godalming and Quincy Morris, taking accurate notes of the various addresses of the houses in the east and the south, took with them keys in a great bunch, and set out to destroy the boxes in these places. The rest of us, with what patience we can, waiting their return, or the coming of the Count. Okay, and that was the end of Chapter 22 of Dracula. All right. So, Pachu, do you want to practice? Do you want to practice pronunciation now? If Pachu says yes, then we will continue the video, but the focus will be on practicing several of the vocabulary words that we talked about today. And he says yes. Pachu says yes. He wants to practice. So, what we're going to bring Pachu into the video now through Discord, and we're going to practice 4 of the words that we learned today, or that we talked about today. But the focus will be on pronunciation, intonation, and accentuation. So if you're trying to improve your accent, this will be a great way to do that. We'll learn how to sound more natural and speak more clearly so that people will understand us comfortably. Okay, so what's going to happen now is I'm going to take a 1-minute break, and because ChatGPT isn't working, I'm going to have to make up my own examples today. So it might take me a few minutes to to come up with my examples. So be patient, and when I come back, I'll have the examples and the definitions of our 4 words. And then we'll practice. Well, let's see if ChatGPT is working yet. I want it to work. It's not working. Okay. All right. So I'll be back in a few minutes, and then we'll practice with pronunciation. Okay, I'm back. Thank you for waiting. Sorry about that. Oh, I didn't realize how much I have come to depend on ChatGPT for help, for definitions, and for writing examples. It took me a few minutes to put everything together, but I thought it was better to write these things in advance than to do it as we go. Okay, so we have four vocabulary words here, and now I'm going to go over to Discord, where Pachu will join us, and we can do two people. So if there's anybody else who would like to join us right now, there is a link in the description to the Discord server. But so far we just have Pachu. So I'm going to bring him in now. Let's see. Hello. Oh, I have to turn off my music. Pachu, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how are you doing tonight or this morning?
As a great.
Great. Oh, that was good. That was a pretty good great. That was a great you just did. All right. Uh, can you see the first word on our list? What does it say?
So to go into
Okay,
something.
to go into something, and that means to that it could mean several things. Most phrasal verbs can mean more than one thing. Most phrasal verbs can mean several things. So one way that you can use go into something means to discuss something in detail, to talk about something in detail. Have you seen that
Yeah.
before? Have you ever seen go into used in this way?
No,
Okay.
no.
It's pretty common. It's a pretty common thing. And I think in the chapter actually uh, they used it that way several times just in that one chapter. So that was kind of funny. Can you read the example sentence?
Okay, sir. John wanted details, but Mary didn't have time to go into them.
What does that mean?
So, mm, John, so Mary, John wanted to go in details, but Mary didn't have time to discuss in detail.
Yeah, she didn't have time to talk about them. She didn't have the time to talk about them. So isn't it in no way do they use the word talk or discuss, but that's what it means.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it pretty clear? Does it make sense? It's a very common phrasal verb. Talk about.
Yes, easy. Yes.
Okay. Can you say the first well, maybe let's change this. Let's just change this to he and she. Can you say the first three words?
He wanted details.
What do you think is the most important word in that phrase?
Details.
Okay. Now that's a funny word because some people say details and some people say details. So it could the accent could be either way. I prefer details. I prefer it on the first syllable.
Yeah.
We'll do that here.
So
Go.
sometimes if you do not know this is short or long, we generally do long because it is
Oh,
easy.
I'm not sure what you're asking. Can you rephrase that in a different way?
Yeah. For example, if we have come across many words
Mhm.
and do not know this sound is long or short, so we can do long usually if you do not know this is short or long.
Well, I don't know about that because some sounds are always short. Some sounds are always little. It just so happens though that details both can be long. So if you
Yes.
if you have a if you have a word, well, I don't know. Let's see. pet. It would just sound weird. It would sound strange if you. People will understand you, I think, if you make it long when it's supposed to be short. But it will sound like you're, I don't know, angry. If you're making
Okay.
every sound long, you'll sound angry or not happy or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
Let's see.
Yes.
I
Got
want
it. Yeah.
a cup of coffee. That sounds very angry because
Yes.
it sounds like when you make something small big, it's because it's important. And so if you make every sound big, it makes it sound like
Yeah.
every sound is important, which usually means a strong emotion. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people will understand you, but they might be afraid of you. You might scare
Yeah.
them.
But Australian, do they long sound usually?
I'm not, I'm not super familiar with Australian English. I think that it's the same. It's the same for everyone. It doesn't matter which country though. Some sounds are big and some sounds are small.
Yeah.
I think that's the hard part about understanding English, the big and the small sounds. Well, speaking of big and small,
Okay.
how will you say those three words together? The first three words of the sentence.
He wanted details.
You wanted details. You wanted details.
He wanted details.
He
He
wanted.
wanted details.
Mhm. So he wanted is very small. He wanted details.
He
Okay.
wanted details.
Can you say the next one, two, three, four, five, the next five words?
But she didn't have time.
What do you think? Which word do you think would be best to emphasize?
Didn't
But
and didn't
time.
have.
Mhm.
Didn't.
Didn't have time. Do you know which word I would? I just naturally want to just emphasize the word time, and I'm not sure about the other ones. Let's see. Let's try it. But she didn't have time. But she didn't have time. I think.
Yes.
I think maybe didn't. You could do didn't. She didn't. We could also do didn't. This would give us more of a big, small rhythm. He wanted details, but she didn't have time.
He wanted details. She didn't have time.
Hmm. Okay. Now, we have the phrasal verb go into, right? And do you remember we were
Yeah.
talking about prepositions and sometimes there's a very close connection between the preposition and the object. What
Yes. Yes.
do you think in a phrasal verb? And there should always
Yeah.
be a close connection between the preposition and the object. But with a phrasal verb, sometimes the preposition doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have a connection to the object. What do you think
Yes.
here? Does this have a connection to the object?
Yes.
It
Yes.
does.
Yeah.
So in that case, we want to emphasize that preposition, right?
Yeah. Into.
Oh,
Yeah.
so which syllable has the emphasis? In or to? Into.
Into. To.
No, that would be into. Into. But this is
In.
into. Into.
Okay. Into. Okay.
Into.
Yes. First.
Into. Okay. Into. Into them.
Into them.
Do you know that,
Into them.
Pachu, did you ever notice that the word them, if it's not emphasized, it could just become into them,
Uh, Into them.
into them.
Yes.
It's pretty typical way of
Yeah.
saying that. Into them.
Yes. Into them.
He wanted details, but she didn't have time to go into them.
He wanted details, but she didn't have time to go into details.
Oh, just say
Sorry. So into
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 into him into him. Try
into
say it again. Say the whole phrase again.
He wanted details, but she didn't have time to go into
In well, not into him. Into him. You have to put all the emphasis on the word in, on the sound in.
to go into
Into.
into
Yeah, you have to do that if you want to be clear.
Okay.
You want
So he wanted detail.
go ahead.
Okay. He wanted details, but she didn't have time to go into
Because now you're saying go into him, but probably it's better if you just say go into him.
Okay. So he wanted details, but she didn't have time to go
Into him. Into him.
into
Hmm?
into
Into him. Go into him.
to go into to
Time
go into
time to go. Can you say time to go?
time to go,
Time to go into him.
time to go into
Didn't have time to go into him.
didn't have time to go into
He wanted details, but she didn't have time to go into him.
He wanted details, but she didn't have time to go into
Don't forget to whistle when you say the word she. She.
He wanted details, but she didn't have time to go into
That was a really nice she. That was very good. Okay. How many phrases can we divide this sentence into?
Is two.
Okay, what are the two phrases?
So he wanted details, the first,
Okay.
and next is but she didn't have time to go into
Okay.
to go into
Time to go into them.
trying
All
to
right.
go into
Okay, and so if we look at this first one, he wanted details. He wanted details. Can you say that?
yeah. He wanted details. He
Okay.
wanted
How do
details.
you want this to sound? Would you like this to sound happy and friendly or serious? Which one do you think is better here?
Is serious,
Serious, serious, serious.
serious.
Okay. All right. So our special word in this phrase is details. Should it have a high sound or a low sound?
It's a low sound.
Okay. But how should we start our phrase?
It's a high tone.
High. Okay. All right. So it would sound like this. He wanted details.
He wanted details.
He wanted details.
He wanted details.
Okay. He wanted details.
He wanted details.
All right. Now in the second phrase, which is pretty long, how do you want that to sound? Do you want it to sound happy or serious?
The serious.
Serious. Okay, so again, we'll make this blue at the end. We'll finish very low. But how will we start our phrase?
Is a high
Uh,
tone. It's-
but she didn't have time to go into them.
But she didn't have time to go into
Mm-hmm. Uh, yeah. Okay. You're saying she didn't have time to go into. You could do that if you want. You could make this high if you want also. I think maybe it's better if you just start high and go down low. Not really, but you could make it high if you want. Let's see. Let's try
Okay.
the whole phrase. he wanted details, but she didn't have time to go into them.
Okay. Mm, he wanted details, but but she didn't have time to go into them.
Okay, can you make a what he want question? How will you ask a what he want question?
What did he want?
Okay, what is your most important word in that question?
Is a what?
Okay.
What?
How would what plus did plus he, how will that sound?
What did the? What did the?
What
What did?
what plus did plus he.
Okay. So what did the? What did the?
Why are
What did the?
you saying duh? Is it duh? What plus did plus he?
What did the? What did he? What did he?
Right. What did he? What did he? What did he? What did he?
What did he? What did he?
What
What
did he
did he?
want?
What did he want?
Yeah, so the two important words are what and want, and the other things, who cares? What did he want?
Okay. What did he want?
What did he want? It sounded very, it sounded very American. What did he
Yeah.
want?
What did he want?
That's funny. That sounds very, very close. Okay. And what is the answer to that?
He wanted details,
Okay. He wanted details, but she didn't have time to go into them.
but she didn't have time to go into them.
Okay. Uh, Now the next word that we have, we've seen this word many times in different books. Peril. Do you remember that word, or have you seen that word before? Peril.
Yes.
What does
Yeah.
that mean? Peril.
Pa- perils. Perils.
What does that mean? Perils.
Yeah. Perils means danger.
Danger. Okay. And can
Yeah.
you can you read the example sentence that we have? What does it say?
There are many perils to mountain climbing.
Yeah, you see, I had to think of a sentence, and I couldn't think of anything, and then I thought, oh, Pachu's in Nepal, so I'll write about.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
All right. Uh, can you read the first four words?
There are many perils.
Okay. What do you think should be the most important word in that phrase?
The perils.
Well, I don't know. I think there might be another word that we could focus.
The many.
Yeah,
Many.
there are many perils.
There are many
Yeah,
perils.
I think many is more important than the word perils. Because, oh
Yes.
no, a
Yeah.
lot. There are a lot of them. It's not just one. It's many, right? Doesn't it seem like
Many.
a stronger word?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you say, how will you read the? Oh wait, where's the accent on many? Is it on the first syllable or the second syllable?
Is the first many,
Okay,
many double sound.
many, many.
Many.
Mhm. Can you read the first three words of this sentence?
There are many. There are many.
Do you know how when you have there are and it's not special, like here, it's not special, it sounds like this. There,
There, there,
there,
there,
thereer, therer, therer.
they, there,
Yeah, like that.
there,
Therer.
there, there,
Not
there,
there, therer. There, two sounds, two syllables. Therer.
there.
There, there are many.
Oh, okay. So there are many.
Yeah, there are many.
There are many.
There are many perils.
there are many perils
What are the last three words of that phrase?
to to mountain climbing.
Hmm. What do you think would be in that phrase to mountain climbing? What do you think is the most important word?
So is a mountain.
Hmm. Because it's kind of an adjective, but also because
Yeah.
when you have two words that are always together, it's usually the first word that becomes important.
Yes. Yeah.
In that word, mountain, mountain, which syllable has the strongest sound? Mountain.
Is a mountain.
Which syllable?
Sometimes, sometimes people left T. Is it
That's
okay?
true. That's true. You can say mountain. That's how I would say it in normal when I'm talking like a normal person
Yeah.
and not an English.
There is a mountain.
Mountain, mountain. It. There is a sound, but it's not T. It's like a little cough. Mountain, mountain, mountain. It's a little
Mount,
weird sound.
mountain.
Mountain.
It's a mountain.
Cough.
Mountain.
If you want to,
Mountain.
it's hard. It's really hard for people to make that sound, but it's kind of like a little cough, like you're coughing.
Mountain. Mountain.
Mountain,
Mountain.
mountain. It's a little,
Mountain.
it's like a little
Mountain.
cough in the bottom of your throat. Mountain.
Mountain. Mountain.
Well, you see, you made the sound. You said that. That's the sound. Just put an N at the end of it. Un, un.
Mountain. Mountain.
So you say,
Mountain.
so you do the sound. Uh. Uh.
Uh, uh,
Now
uh,
put an end at the end of that. Un, un.
un,
Yeah.
un,
Mountain,
un,
mountain.
mountain, mountain.
Just say the T for right now. It's better if you say the T. It's hard. I've never met somebody who could do that. It's kind of difficult.
Okay, I will try after class. Okay.
Yeah. Thurkan says, uh, yeah, I'm Henry Higgins. somebody was telling me, oh, you should do Pygmalion. A friend of mine was saying, do Pygmalion for your reading. I said, oh, I'm not going to. Number one, I'm not going to do a play because that requires a lot of acting. I can't act, but also I think that would be really hard to do for a video. I don't think anybody, only you, Sircon, would like to watch that. Maybe I'll do it just for you. Okay. So yeah, Pachu, just say the T. It's fine. It's better if you do. It's better English if you pronounce it. Say mountain. That just sounds better
Yes,
anyway.
yes,
So don't
yes.
worry.
A mountain.
Yeah, because that takes a lot of practice. But
Yeah,
which syllable has all of the sound?
is a mountain. Ten.
Oh, so it's mountain or mountain? Which one?
The first is a
First, yeah,
mountain. Is a mount.
it's the first one. Okay. Mountain.
Is a mountain.
Mountain. Mountain climbing.
Is a mountain climbing.
There are many perils to mountain climbing.
There are many perils to mountain climbing.
Many perils to mountain climbing.
Many perils to mountain climbing.
I think mount there are many perils to mountain climbing. Mountain climbing. Yeah, it's just mountain. It's not climbing at all. Okay. That's weird,
Okay.
but it's true. Okay. All right. How many phrases do you think you could divide this sentence into?
So there are many perils.
Okay. So that's one phrase. And then the second
Yeah.
is to mountain climbing. Okay.
Yes. To mountain climbing is the next.
Okay. How would you like to sound? Do you want to sound serious or do you want to sound nice and friendly?
So is a serious.
Okay.
Serious.
Okay. So that means we'll make this all low tones. Many perils, many perils.
many many perils,
Many perils.
many perils.
But how will we start the phrase? Will we also be low in the beginning?
No, is a high,
Yeah,
is a
probably
high
high.
tone.
There are many perils. There are
There are
perils. It's hard.
okay. Uh, there are many perils.
Hmm.
There are many perils.
There are many perils. It's hard to do it on purpose. There are many perils.
There are many perils.
There are many perils. Okay. There are many there are many perils. There are many perils.
There are many perils
Okay.
to mountain climbing.
Okay. And so how are we going to do the second phrase? Is that also going to be serious?
Yes,
Okay.
the mountain climbing,
Mountain
climbing.
climbing. To mountain climbing.
To mountain
Yeah,
climbing.
because we normally will start our phrase high. That's just how a phrase will start in English in a neutral sentence
Yeah,
is high. To mountain climbing, but because it's all serious, we want to go immediately
yeah,
low. So
yeah. So yeah, to mountain climbing.
to
To mountain climb.
to mountain climbing.
To mountain climbing.
There are many perils to mountain climbing.
There are many perils to mountain
All
climbing.
right. Uh, what kind of question can we ask about this?
Oh, yeah. Why is there to mountain climbing?
Why are there many? Because you maybe you could answer that question for us. So, how will you make a why many perils mountain climbing question? How will you make that question?
So why are there many perils to mountain climbing?
Okay, that's right. Now, what is the most important word in your question?
Is it why?
Okay, how will you say why plus are plus there?
Uh, why are
The
there?
why is big, right? Why? Why?
Why?
Why are
Why?
there? Why are there? Why are there?
Why are there? Why are there?
Why are there?
Why are there?
Think
Why
about
are there?
think about in the UK where a lot of times they don't pronounce the R. Those would all be vowel sounds. Why there? Why there? Why there?
Why?
That would be hard.
Why are there?
That
Yeah.
sounded really bad though. That's not how they sound.
Why?
Why are there?
Why are there?
Why are there? Can you?
Why are there?
mm, Why are there many perils?
Why are there many perils?
Mhm. So many is still important. Why are there many perils?
Why are there many perils?
Why are there many perils to mountain climbing?
Why are there many perils to mountain climbing?
What is the answer? What kind of answer can we give to that question?
Because of high altitude.
Okay, so give me a full sentence. There are because
And there are many perils to mountain climbing because of high altitudes.
okay, there
There may be lack of oxygen.
lack of
There may be lack of oxygen.
yeah. Okay, there are many perils
Yes.
to mountain climbing because of high altitudes.
There are many perils to mountain climbing because of high
All
altitudes.
right. Okay, let's look at our next word, which is strive. Do you know that word strive? Have you used that or seen that before?
Yes, yes.
What does that mean? Strive.
Yeah. Uh, to attempt very very hard.
To
You have
try
to
very hard,
achieve.
to work very hard for a goal,
Yeah.
something like that. Okay. Can you read our example sentence?
So Mike strives to be a good student.
Yeah, we'll just say he. I'll just change it to he. Say it again. Use he.
He strives to be a good student.
Okay. Now that word, that V sound, strive, is that a sound that you push out, or is that a sound that you eat? The V.
Is it
You eat it.
strives?
So what does that mean? So what does that mean about the vowel sound? What happens to the vowel sound because of that?
So E should be long.
Yes, it's very long. He strives to be.
He strives to be.
That's right. How about good? Also, is D, is that D sound? Is that a sound that you eat or a sound that you push out?
I eat up.
You
Yeah,
you eat a
eat.
D. You push out a T, but you eat a D. So what happens to the in good?
Yeah, it's a long. It's
Very
oh God, God.
strives to be a good student.
He strives to be a good student.
Okay, so we already have our rhythm. We that was pretty easy. We already found our rhythm. So we have our small, big, small, big. He strives to be a. Can you say he strives to be a?
He strives to be a.
Mm-hmm. Not stripes. Strives.
Strives.
Mm-hmm. He strives to be a good student.
He strives to be a good student.
Okay, is it good or good? Which one?
It's a good.
Yeah.
It's
Because
good.
of the D, you have to make it bigger. Good
Yeah.
student.
Good student.
He strives to be a good student.
He strives to be, sorry, he strives to be a good student.
Okay. How many
Yeah,
phrases?
is
Go ahead.
so just I want to ask, is student or student? Which is
It's
the
well, oh,
right?
that's a good question. What do you think? Because you have the D here. So what does that mean? What does that tell you?
The is to is student,
Yeah,
wouldn't
student,
is wrong.
student, student, student.
But I usually pronounce from my school days the student. But sometimes I hear the people pronounce it student,
Student.
student,
Okay. Well,
student. Yes,
it's it's possible. I mean, what I'm telling you is not. They're not like they're not rules. We say written in stone. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but we're trying to improve our pronunciation. So I'm giving you guidelines to help you pronounce things. But certainly there would be a lot of variation in the way that people say things. Does that make sense?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so
Yeah. Okay.
it would
Clear.
be good. It would be. Are you familiar with the phrase best practice?
Yes.
What does that mean if you say best practice?
Yeah. Mm, is best just exercise. Do exercise.
It's like the best way to do something. It doesn't mean that you have to do it that way, but it's the best way to do it. Do you understand?
Yes.
And
Yes.
there could be times like if student is not a very important word, maybe you could ignore it a little bit and say student. You could do that. It's fine. But since we're trying to improve our pronunciation, let's be conscious of all the little things like that. And then I don't remember where was I reading this. I was listening to somebody, and they were saying first you have to learn the rules so you know how to break the rules. Does that make sense?
Yes,
First
yes,
you learn
yeah, we
the
should
rules,
be.
and then once you're an expert on the rules, then you know when you can break the rules.
Yes, so we can say first we learn the rules,
Hmm.
but the rule does not always work, so we can modify
You,
the rule.
you can be flexible. There's a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, yes, yeah,
So this is I'm not telling you you have to do it, but I ignored that word, and you were the one who said, "Oh, well, how should it be pronounced? You have the D there." And technically it's student. Sometimes it doesn't.
yes,
Sometimes it doesn't
yes.
matter.
He's he's student. Yeah, yes,
Hmm.
yeah,
And the time that when it really matters, if it's an important word, that's when it really, really matters. And is
yes.
this an important word in our phrase?
No,
So it doesn't really matter too much. But if that were the main word, then it would be important to make it very long. Right? Does that make sense?
oh, yes, okay, clear. Yeah.
So now you know the rule and you know when you can break it.
Yes,
Okay. So let's read that sentence again. He strives to be a
he strives to be a,
he strives to be a good student.
he strives to be a good student.
He strives to be a good student. Okay. How many phrases can you divide that sentence into, do you think?
He strives is the first,
Okay.
and next is to be a good student.
Okay. And how do you want to sound? Do you want to sound serious or do you want to sound nice and friendly?
So serious,
Ser-
serious,
serious. Serious.
ser- serious,
Serious. So you've got two things in
serious.
that word. Number one, that that happens in your throat. So should be longer. But also it's the accented syllable. So that's two reasons why it should be pretty long.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
yes,
Serious. If you say serious, maybe people will understand it, maybe not. It depends on
yeah.
other things. But
So, okay, serious,
serious,
serious.
serious.
O-
Okay.
Okay, so serious, serious,
Rius.
serious,
Rius. Rius.
serious,
Mm,
serious,
not re,
serious,
but Rius. Rius.
serious,
Serious.
serious, serious,
Serious.
serious.
That's right. Okay. All right. So we want to sound serious in our first phrase. So we'll finish
Yes,
low and we'll start high. He
yes.
strives. He strives.
He stri-
Again.
he strives.
Strive.
He
Try to
strives.
strives. He strives.
He strives.
Mm-hmm.
He strives.
He strives. Okay. Now, in our second phrase, to be a good student, do you want to sound happy and nice and friendly or serious?
So make it also serious.
Serious, okay. So we'll finish low. But again, we have to start
Yeah.
high because most phrases in English will start high. So
Yeah.
to be a good student.
Okay. So yeah, it's sometimes difficult when we do it purposely. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
hard to do it on purpose.
generally we do.
For me, it's hard to do on purpose. I'm thinking in my head, is this right?
Yes. So okay. Mm, To to be a good student.
To
To be a good
be a good
student.
student. To be a good student.
Um, to be a good student.
He strives to be a good student.
He strives to be a good student.
Pachu, can you make a what he strive for question?
What does he strive for?
Okay. What is the most important word in that question?
What
Okay.
is what?
So if what
What
is important, it sounds like what? What?
is what?
What?
Is what?
How would it sound if you say what plus does plus he? How will that sound together?
So, uh, what does he? What does he?
What
What does he?
what does he? What does he?
What does he? What does he?
Uh-huh. What does he strive?
What does he strive?
What does he strive for?
What does he strive for?
And what is the answer?
He strives to be a good student.
Okay, good or good?
Is a good.
Mhm.
Is a good.
Say it again. He strives.
He strives to be a good student.
Good or good?
Is a good. It's
Say it again.
good. He strives to be a good
That's
student.
better. Yeah, because if you say he strives to be a good student, people may have difficulty understanding that actually.
Yes.
But
He
it,
strives
mhm,
to be a good student.
not good. Good.
So he strives to be a good
A
student.
good student
A good student.
strives to be a good student.
He strives to be a good student.
Okay. All right. So we'll do one more today and then we'll finish.
Yeah. So,
Do you know this word deem? We've seen this a lot in several books. I had no idea it was such a common word.
no.
Okay, this means to consider, like
Okay.
to look at something in a special way. Let's look at the example, and then maybe we can understand better the word deem. Can you read the example sentence?
Okay. So Mike deems Jones as a brother, even though they are just friends.
Mm-hmm. Are so
Yes.
do John and Mike have the same blood?
Yeah. Eh,
Are they related?
mm,
Are they really brothers?
no.
No, they're just friends, right?
Yeah.
But how does Mike think about John? Like,
So uh, Mike think they John is his friend, just friend,
well, they're
not
friends,
brothers.
but do they have a stronger feeling, a stronger relationship?
Uh, not serious. Serious.
What if I were in Nepal? Okay, imagine I'm in Nepal. What
Yeah.
would I do that would make people angry, like offended? What kind of thing could I do that would say people would say, "Oh my God, that's horrible. Why did you do that?" Like a special cultural thing, like maybe I don't know because I'm a foreigner.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So we can we can use what we say is another name we can say as a yeah.
Oh, okay, Pachu, in your home, when somebody walks into your home, do they remove their shoes?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Uh,
Yes.
let's see. So let's do this. It is deemed rude to not.
Yeah.
We'll make
Yes.
remove your shoes in Nepal. What does that mean?
Yeah, yeah, rude. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, he's angry.
Yeah, but so it's considered rude. People think about it like it's rude. It's a bad thing. That's what people think in Nepal.
Yeah, but in foreign country, people uh, wear shoes in their bed also.
Oh well, I don't know about that. I mean, because even in the U.S., I think people wear their shoes inside, but I don't think that they would put them on the bed. I wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe some people would, but I would never do that.
Okay.
But so are John and Mike friends?
Uh, yes,
Yes, they're friends.
friends.
Are they brothers? Are they really brothers? Do they have the same mother and father?
No,
No.
they are not siblings.
Yeah, okay, they're not siblings. But how does Mike think about John? How does Mike consider John?
Yeah, they may be the uncle or the any neighbors.
Well, according to the
Uh,
sentence, what does the sentence say? Read the sentence again.
Mike deems John as a brother, means Mike consider John as a brother,
Yeah, but they're not really brothers. They're just
even though, yeah, just brother, even though they are just
Does
friends.
that make sense? Do you understand the idea of deem?
Yes, yeah, we also uh, say someone like treat someone like a brother.
Mhm.
In many cases, even though they are not siblings or uncle's son or something
Yep.
cousin.
Well, that I know that that's very common in India. They call each other brother, right? Bhai and sister also. I don't. What is the name for a sister?
Yeah, sister. Yeah.
Everybody, like you call everybody that, right?
Yes.
All the time.
Yes. Yeah. All the time.
Hmm. Okay. So, but
Yeah.
the sentence is clear, right?
Yes. Clear.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's just change this to he and him because it's easier than saying the names. Okay.
Okay.
Can you say the first three words in that sentence?
He he deems him as a
Now that word deem, okay, the M, where's the M in your mouth? Is that something that you push out of your mouth, or is that something that moves around somewhere inside of your mouth?
is inside.
Okay, it's inside. It's not really down here. You're not really eating it. It's more up here, but it's same idea. Okay, so really this should be deem,
Is a deems. Is
deem.
a deem.
So
Is a
because
deems.
if you let's put two words here. Here's one word. Whoops. Here's another word. Well, actually, that doesn't help. No, let's not do that. Let's just make sure that we pronounce it long. Okay, deem. So in those three words, he deems him. What is the most important word?
Is a deems.
Deem, deem. Try to how we were pulling our tongue back. Deem. Pull your tongue back when you say that. Deem. Make your mouth very tight and tense. Deem.
Uh, deem.
Because it's got a
Deem.
Y in there somewhere. Deem.
Deem.
hmm That's
Deem.
better. That sounds better. So deem is how do those three words sound together? If deem is the important word, then how do those three words sound together?
So he deems in. He deems
Pull your
in.
tongue back. You have to make your mouth tense. Deems.
He he deems him.
hmm
He deems
He
him.
deems
He
him.
deems him.
He deems him. He deems him.
He deems him.
Mhm.
He deems
He
him.
deems.
He deems him.
So deem is very big, and he and him become very, very small. He deems him.
He he deems him.
Okay.
He
He
deems him
deems him. Now let's look at the next three words. Can you say the next three
okay
words?
as a brother, as a brother,
And what is the most important word in that phrase?
as a brother, brother,
Okay, where's
brother,
and that word brother has two syllables. Which syllable has all of the power? Brother.
other,
Which
brother,
which word has all which
first
syllable has all the which one?
is a first,
The first one. That's right.
brother,
Brother. Brother.
is a brother,
Brother.
brother.
He deems him as a brother.
He deems as a brother.
Deems him. Deems, don't forget him. You have to say him. He deems him as a brother.
He deems him is sorry. He deems him as a brother.
Deem, pull your tongue back. Deem. He deems him as a brother.
He deems him as he deems him as a brother.
Hmm. Now, this is a phrase. Even though is a phrase. Okay. What does that phrase, even though, what does it mean?
Even though he is same as like uh, although
Okay.
yeah
But or something like that. All right.
yeah but
Uh, uh, so this is a phrase, it's two words. If you have a phrase that's two words, which word will get all of the special attention?
is even
Even,
is
the first
even
one. So when you have two words that always go together, most of the time it's the first word that gets all of the attention.
yeah
Now, in that word even, which
even
syllable has all of the power?
e
E,
even
the first syllable. Even. And you have the V, which is down here in the throat. So that makes it extra long. Even though.
even though
He deems him as a brother, even though.
he deems him as a brother, even though
Mhm. Now, in the final part, they are just friends. So that's four words. Can you say them?
yeah they are just friends.
Hmm. What do you think is the most important word in that phrase?
They're just
Yeah, that's right. Just. Adverbs and adjectives are usually the most important words when you have them. Okay, so we'll
yeah.
make that big. So, how does they and are, how does that sound? If they're not special words, how does it sound?
So there are there
There.
are there are
Actually, you can write this. It's acceptable to write this. It's very normal. There, there.
there
Hmm.
there
Hmm.
there
Even
there
though they're just friends.
even though they're just friends.
Okay, now is it just or just?
So the just
That sounds better if you do.
just
That sounds more natural if you do it like that. Just friends.
so when I hold my breath, so it becomes difficult. But when I flexible, yeah, like relaxed, so I can do better.
Hmm.
But I always in a hurry, like I hold the breath, so it goes in high tone.
Yeah, but I think, well, it's not about being high or low. You could do high or low. It doesn't matter. But it's just you want to make it longer because it doesn't sound like you're holding the vowel sound long enough.
Yeah,
Especially for a special word like just. Sometimes it's
just
like when we said student. Sometimes it can be small. Just can sometimes be small, but here it's a special word, so it's important to make it bigger. Just friends.
Just friends.
Mhm.
Just friends. Just friends.
Even though they're just friends.
Even though they're just friends.
He deems him as a brother, even though they're just friends.
He deems he deems him as a brother, even though they're just friends.
Even though, even though,
Even though,
even though they're
even
just,
though,
even though they're just,
even they're just,
even though they're just friends.
even though they are just friends.
He deems him as a, he deems him as a.
He deems him. He deems him.
Mesa. Can you say Mesa? Mesa? He deems him as a.
He deems measure. He deems measure.
Deems him. Say sim. Say sim. Sim.
So sim,
Simaz.
sim,
Simaz. Simaz.
simans,
Simeza. Simeza.
simager,
He,
simager.
he deems him as a.
He deems measure.
He deems him as a brother.
He deems as a brother.
He deems him as a brother, even though they're just friends.
He deems he deems him as a brother, even though they are just friends.
Okay, how many phrases can you divide this sentence into?
So is it yes, two?
Two? Okay, what is the first phrase?
He deems him as a
He,
brother.
he deems him as a brother. Okay.
He deems him as a brother.
And what is the second phrase?
The second is a, even though they are just friends.
Okay. Now, in the first phrase, how do you want that to sound? Do you want that to sound nice and friendly, or do you want it to sound serious?
So let me happy.
Happy? Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then what we're going to do, we want to finish our phrase low, but because you want to have it sound a little bit nicer, happier, we want to put some high tones at the end also. Brother, brother,
As brother, brother,
brother, brother.
brother, brother
How will our phrase start?
is a high tone.
Okay.
Deems, deems.
He deems him as a brother.
He deems him as a brother.
He deems him as a brother.
He he deems him as a brother.
Okay. Now, in the second phrase, even though they're just friends, how will you like that to sound? Do you want it to sound nice and happy or serious?
Is a happy,
Okay.
happy.
So again, we'll we'll make this we'll put in some high tones at the end, but we have to we normally would want to finish low because when you're at the end of a phrase or the end of a sentence, you want to finish low. Okay, so just friends.
Is just
And
friends.
how will the
Just
that's right. Do it again.
just friends.
Uh-huh. Just
Just
friends.
friends.
Just friends. Okay, how will the phrase start?
Is even is
E-
even
Even so we want to start high because most phrases start high. Even though
okay.
they're just friends.
Even though there are just friends.
He deems him as a brother, even though they're just friends.
He deems he deems him as a brother, even though they are just friend.
Okay. All right. Uh, let's say how he deem him. How will you make a question with those words? How he deem him?
How how does he deem him?
Okay. What is the most important word in that phrase? How does he deem him?
Is how
How? Okay.
how.
How will it sound if you
Yeah.
put how plus does plus he? How will all of that sound together?
So how does he?
How
How
how does he? How does he?
how does he? How does he? How does he?
How will the word deem plus him? How will that sound?
So is a dim sim. It's a dim sim.
But there's no s because we're making a question. Deem
Sorry. So the dimage
deem
dimage
deem him, deem him, deem him, deem him,
dimim dimim.
deem him. Let's. Oh, I better write that. I think I'm confusing you, so I'm going to write down the question. How does he deem him? You already said the question correctly, but now I think you're getting.
Yeah.
It's too much information. Okay.
Okay.
So you see, I wrote it. How?
Okay.
This is the correct
Yeah.
question. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Deem him,
So
deem him, deem him.
dimem dimem.
How does he? How does he?
How does he? How does he?
How does he deem him?
How does he deem him?
That's just normal, believe it or not, English. How does he deem him?
How does he deem him?
That's right. Okay, and what is your answer?
He deems him. He deems him as a brother, even though they are just friends.
Hmm. Can you try to say? I mean, that was fine, but can you try to pay a little bit more attention to the special words and the special syllables?
Okay. So he dreams him.
Hmm.
He dreams him as a brother, even though they are just friends.
He deems him as a brother, even though they're just friends.
He deems him as a brother, even though they are just friends.
All right. Okay. I think that we'll finish here tonight. Okay.
And thank you, sir.
Maybe I'm not sure. I might be back in about 10 hours. So around 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning your time. But I don't know yet. I can't make a promise for that. Okay.
Okay, sir. Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, thank you everybody
Bye.
for your comments and questions. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come back. And if you want to practice with us, you can you just click on the link in the description to the Discord server, and you can practice with us too. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Bye bye.